Hi everyone, welcome to the world of Lian Galahads, where I will show you the performance of all this Galahad, be it the original, the Trinity, or the LCD. And I have been holding on to this project, in fact, deliberately. Reason being, right, I wanted to run all the Galahads max up to 4 to 5 days before I conduct this performance test. Because no point having a unit and just mount on it and just to show you the performance. I rather run everything like 2 to 3 days or maybe 4 days. In fact, most of this have been running more than 4 days before to do a comparison test among all the liquid AIO. And besides this, I found out some stuff which is related to the pump, whereby I have read or witnessed that some of you have witnessed the pump failure and such. I will talk about it in this content. Now, besides this, right, you have watched reviews stated that all this can perform very well. Based on the fact I have observed, most of these reviews are done overseas, which the room temperature is not what we are having here in Singapore. So, taking this opportunity, right, representing a very hot country, hot and humid country, whereby you have all-rounder room temperature around 30 degrees to 31 degrees Celsius, or maybe max to 32. The only time that we have cooler temperature is around 28 to 29 degrees, whereby it rains. But today is a shiny day. As you can witness, my windows, one is open, the rest are closed. Later, I'll be conducting a test with all my windows open. But having the windows open, right, you will still be seeing room temperature of 30 degrees Celsius. Alright. Before I proceed, I'd like to thank Lian to have provided all this unit for me to fiddle with and to share my experience with you guys. Also to Block Soda, thank you very much to have arranged all this and to be delivered to me. Without further ado, let's begin. The equipment I used to conduct this test with all the Galahads, I'll be using a Ryzen 9 7950X with a X670E Steel Legend board from ASRock with the latest BIOS, and the RAM kit, in fact, is a 32 gig kit from G-Skill. Now, I will do some tweaks as I wouldn't want my processor to go beyond 85 or maybe 90 degrees and above. So most of the time, you will be limited. So do apologize on this. Reason being is that I wouldn't want to fry my processor. Now, having said this, right, things that I've done, I've set the XMP profile on my RAMs. This is one thing. Next, I have done the offset on my V-core. Now, I've done it minus 50 offset, meaning to say it's at minus 50 milliwatt. Based on the fact that what it does is, when the system determines what is needed to pump the performance, it will just draw the V-core accordingly. So by offsetting it, right, it will reduce down a bit. So this is what I meant by doing the offset. Next, on the advanced mode, I've done the AMD overclocking, whereby I've done the precision boost overdrive. As you can see here, all the settings over here. Now I've deliberately done this setting so that it will hover around 4.8 to 5 gig and not more than that. Because if I were to do more than that, right, the temperature will go up drastically and you won't be seeing much of a performance of what the Galahad can do. So just want to show you what it can do and what the temperature reading with these settings. Besides this, the curve optimizer, I've set it to negative 15. Next, I've set the hardware monitor whereby my fans are. Now, for CPU fan, this is meant for my radiator fans. Else, for CPU fan 2, right, I've switched, as you can see, I switched to water pump, which has a 2 ampere rating and at all times running at full speed. Now let me take you to Windows and to show you what are the rest of the things that you need to take note. I'll be using 3 applications, Cinebench R23 to run the stress test on the processor, and to pull out all these stats is using hardware info, and to show you the stats by using Unigine Valley. And all the stats will show as I individually plug all the cooler, where you can see a live feed over here on my left. And how I did the arrangement is, the radiator will be away from the motherboard but the wind direction is pulling cool air through the radiator. So be it whether it's a push or a pull through the radiator, they yield the same results. That's why I did this way, so the orientation is easier for me. Anyway, the radiator is away from the motherboard, so even if there are hot air going through, right, it will not hit the motherboard itself. And right at the bottom where you see a graph, this is just to show you that at idle and at load. Of course, this diagram here, in fact 63 is not the idle as I restarted running, so this is just an illustration. And on the stats itself, please take note on the CPU temperature, the clock, the core voltage that is drawing, and the load of the processor, and how much wattage is being put in order to run this frequency here. And this is the radiator fan, which you will see that it will start to pick up to its max depending on the fans on the liquid AIO. And as for the pump, I've set it to full. As I show you on UFEI, it will hit at the max rate. Then these are the auxiliary temperature, which you will see, which I will talk about it. Now, as mentioned to you on the PPT, TDC and EDC for the PBO2, I set it manual. Though I've set to that, right, based on the new BIOS, it doesn't react on what you have set. As in, like, let's say you set 175 watts. The system will determine, does it need 175 watts? So it will show over here. And of course, better cooling, it will draw lesser or in fact draw more, depends. Now, speaking of which, right, on the clock, though I'm limited to this, right, rest assured that most of the time you'll be seeing 4.5 to 4.8 gigahertz. But the actual fact, this is just average. Reason of saying this, right, take a look at this. Okay, now this clock in fact is taking off from the clock on hardware info. See, so this average out of all the cores. If I were to run this, okay, see, this is in fact the average of this. Alright, but at the background, all the cores are running at 5 gig or so. So take note on this. Now, besides this, right, I'd like to talk about the thermal pad that I've used. I've not used thermal paste on this. Instead, if you look on my right, that is the thermal pad meant for CPU. I just want to standardize all the readings. That's why I'm using that. And when using the thermal pad, right, the temperature on the CPU itself will not be as good as thermal paste. For thermal paste, right, it will be around 2 to 3 or even 5 degrees difference. Before you watch the result, hope you guys will watch this as I discovered something. But if you do not want to know about this, you can just skip. There is a timestamp straight to the performance of this Galahad. Now, I read on Reddit and in some areas where PC builders mentioned that the pumps are failing. One thing you need to know, be it the performance, the Trinity or the Trinity SL Infinity or the LCD, all these are high-speed pump. And some I've actually encountered and they were having problems. They did RMA their unit. Reason being, right after when I see what they are doing, I understood what's going on. As mentioned to you, all these are high speed pump, and they need certain amperage to maintain the rotation of the propellers. Now, take for example, I have two teams. One team with only one bottle of water, which is 200 ml, and the other team each have at least 2 gallons each. I will send them off to the desert, okay, deserted desert, and ask them to walk probably about 60 kilometers or more. The team having the 200 ml, will they last, or will the team of each having 2 gallons of water will last? So if you provide enough water for the team itself, they will travel far. Same goes to this pump. If you do not give a consistent ampere that it requires, right, yes, they might struggle having a very weak ampere to run. But the problem is, in prolonged period of time, right, the pump will die because it's not able to sustain. Else, if a full feed ampere pump, it will prolong the life. That's the reason why sometimes I mention that pumps should run at full speed or at 80% and not lower than that, and do not run at PWM mode. Now, coming to this pump, some of you might argue, as I have a PC builder who told me this, hey, each pump have a SATA connector. Okay, so it should be more than enough to supply the pump. But the problem is, okay, take for example the Trinity or the Trinity SL Infinity. This SATA is to supply power to the ARGB on the dashboard over here. And not only that, it provides the connection, okay, to your fans, because you have one plug over here that goes to your fan. So that is to provide the fan ARGB and the fan load, and also to this. This is what this SATA cable is all about, that is on the unit. If you think that this is able to supply the pump on the unit, why do this unit have its own dedicated 4-pin PWM connector? The current is drawn through this 4-pin PWM fan connector and not the SATA connection. Same goes to the performance. Performance is even picking up higher amperage, which you see over here. There's a SATA, but this SATA is only to the controller, I mean to the ARGB effect over here, and to your fans. Else they also have a additional, I mean the performance have an additional 4-pin PWM fan header. This is where the pump draw the current from. Now let me take you to the dashboard and tell you what mistake that some of the PC builders have done. Now just an illustration over here, as this is the motherboard layout where your RAMs are, your processor and such, and at the top right you will have CPU fan or CPU fan op. And when you plug to these headers, right, you wouldn't know what are the amperage. And there's one AIO pump over here. So if you were to scroll down and to look at the specification, it will tell you what are the amperage. In fact, I would advise to plug the pump, be it the Trinity SL, the Performance or the LCD, plug the pump header on the AIO pump. Because some of the motherboards, right, when they state AIO pump, they have more than enough amperage, which is rated 1.5 or 1.8, I mean ampere. Else, for some of these headers over here, right, like the fan, CPU fan and the op, right, let me just show you over here. Okay, see, CPU fan, CPU op, all rated 1 ampere. So having to say this, right, if you are going to cater your high-speed pump on all this 1 ampere, right, as mentioned to you, sending a team with only 200 ml water they have to share, they can't sustain. So a long period of time, right, it will, the pump will fail or start to make gargling noise or some noise that you wouldn't want to listen to. Now, and some of the boards, right, in fact, okay, take for example this. All the pump headers, right, are pretty strong. So before you plug to any of the headers, right, make sure that you read the instructions off from your manual, or to see which is a stronger amperage, then plug it to there. See, for this board, see, you have pump fan, you have system fan, you have CPU fan, but look at the amperage. It's either 3A or 2A. And some of this motherboard, the instruction manual does not tell you what are the amperage. Take for example this board. Okay, take a look at this. All fan headers are subjected to support IO pump, and high performance fan with the capability to deliver up to 2 ampere. So this, you don't have to worry. Either of the headers you can just plug because it's supplying 2 ampere. It's more than enough for a high speed pump. And also like S-Rock, in fact I'm very familiar with S-Rock. Okay, their manual wouldn't state anything, but on their specification, I'll click on the wrong thing. Okay, on the specification itself, right, they will state, which is what I show you on the Gigabyte board. Now, where is it? Okay, see? Not here. No. Okay, CPU fan support fan power up to 1 ampere. I will not plug the pump header on the CPU fan 1. Instead, I will plug to, see, CPU fan 2, etc, etc, and CPU fan 1, sorry, chassis fan 1 and 6 or water pump support fan power up to 2A. In fact, the fan 2, CPU fan 2 is supplying 3A. So I will not again plug on CPU fan 1, which has 1 ampere. I rather plug the pump header, right, to the CPU fan 2 or chassis fan 1 to 6, which has more than enough amperage. And this is also part of the reason why some of you have actually faced the problem whereby your pump is failing, your pump is making noises, etc. And especially those who actually daisy chain or like to buy fan splitters, right? So imagine that you to connect your pump header together with the splitter to supply power on your fans. Just imagine 1 ampere. Okay, over here. If you plug the pump to here with a splitter to share out with your fans, how much amperage will your pump get? So do take note on this. Be more mindful when you're plugging the pump header, right? The pump connector, right? Make sure you connect to something which has a bigger ampere. If not, just follow the thumb of rule. Like myself, I would plug anything that has a AIO pump. If not, I will plug something which has water pump. See, CPU fan 2 or water pump. So take note on this. I hope that you have learned and observed by yourself on the ampere. Make sure that you plug to the correct amperage to supply the power to your pump so that you will not damage. Alright, now on with the performance. The results are out, and all this Galahad version 2 does perform, except for the original, which I've stopped in the process. Reason being, it was thermal throttling and the temperature was like unbearable to me. That's why I stopped it. Looking at this chart where you have all the readings, these are taken off from the benchmark which I've shown you, and these are of the max value. Now before I go on with the yellow highlights, when I go against the website specification with all this Galahad, the radiator fans and the pump does tally. In fact, it goes way past the specification, which is good. Now back to where I was when I mentioned about all this highlighted yellow. These are the strength of what this Galahad can do over here. Take for example the Trinity Performance 360. You have total of 7 yellow readings, which tells me that this liquid AIO is performing very well. And I don't judge the performance based on just the CPU temperature. I will look as an overall, the mumbo, the chipset, the DIMM slot, the M.2. And why do I say this? Let me explain. Now, on the motherboard itself, with the processor, how you get this temperature reading, which is the processor is transferring the heat to your liquid AIO cold plate. And in order to dissipate the heat off from the cold plate, you go to your radiator through the hose. But you need to have a very strong pump, which you can see here, which is the highest compared to the rest of the pump. And having a high transfer rate at max RPM, the fluid will just go through the hose. And by the way, the Galahad II, right, all this having thick hose, not the thin hose that you have on the original. So transferring a lot of heated solution to your radiator. And the Trinity Performance 360, right, in fact have a dual fin stack on the radiator, so it will absorb more heat off from the liquid that's passing through, due to the fact that it has bigger surface area, and to cool it down to bring the cold fluid back to the cold plate, and that goes to a cycle. With this consistent pump rate, which is at 4240 RPM, and to the big surface area of the radiator, this is how it performs, which is able to bring down the temperature on the CPU, which is 75 degrees. Now, I mentioned that I also based on other components, because based on the fact that, take for example this motherboard itself, if the processor heat is not being dissipated fast enough through your liquid AIO, right, they will recite the heat around this area, which impact, first of all, your VRM. Next will be your DDR5, and then your M.2. But overall, if you want to have a better clock speed, right, it's best that the heat dissipate off from the motherboard. As you can see on the Trinity Performance 360, look at the power drawn, which is directly put from your VRM, from your PSU. It's much higher as compared to the rest of the Galahad. Reason being, right, all this component is being cooled down, so it allows the system to determine, hey, look, I'm running pretty cool. I still have the extra, space to draw more. That's why the power drawn is this much. And when this is done, right, look at the call frequency. See, it's the highest amount all as compared to the rest of the Galahad. And you might be thinking that, hey, Kale, is no big deal, it's running on 4.8 GHz. Now, as mentioned in my methodology, these are the average. And what do I mean by that? Now, do apologize for the unclear picture over here. These are the average call frequency of what this Galahad can do, which the average is taken off from here. Alright? And it's not taking off from all the 16 calls. So having to say this, right, taking the example of the Performance 360 and the probably I would say the 240. Now for the 360, right, it's running at this clock speed. At the background, the total 16 calls that you see over here, probably I would say the first few calls, probably I would say until 10, for example, from call 1 all the way to call 10, it's running on 5 gig. And from call 11 onwards to the 16, it's running on 4.5 gig. That yield this average result. And as compared to the Trinity 240, right, it's running much lower. Probably I would say that probably the first 5 call is running on 5 gig, and the rest of the call is running on 4 gig plus. So this, to me, is just the average, but you need to look at the background. So I wouldn't say that it's no big deal, but overall, I would say that the Trinity Performance, right, among all the Galahad II version, is the best. And also to the fact that you might say that, Krill, you have limited your power usage and the offset and such. If I do not do that, you will not be able to tell the big difference on the temperature and the power drawn and the frequency. So that's the reason why I've actually toned down and limit my processor to run at this settings. And also based on the fact that, as I shown you, the temperature is horrible. Room temperature is horrible in a hot and humid country. So that's the reason why I've toned it down. Now, having said this, right, looking at overall on everything, I would say that the best performance, in fact, are the Trinity Performance 360, the LCD 280, and the LCD 360. Of course, this comes with a premium price. And besides the performance, right, the look of it is good, especially the LCDs. So you're paying what worth the performance itself. Next, I would say that if you to run a high-end processor, if you want to run default or to do undervoting, you can go with the Trinity and the Trinity 240 and the Trinity SL Infinity, not an issue. But don't overclock with this. I would say you might endanger, because I've limited my processor, as you can see. So if you were to put it at default, right, this will be much higher, especially for the Trinity 240. It might just stay consistently at 98 degrees Celsius. Else for the SL Infinity, right, might be at around 96 to 97 degrees Celsius. And for default undervoting or to do light overclocking, you can go with this, which is the Trinity Performance 360, the LCD 280, or the LCD 360. But for my opinion, at all costs, do not run overclocking. Best, it's like you want to prolong the life of your PC system and such. So it's best to actually do undervolt, whereby you don't lose much of the performance, yet you can yield better thermal results and to lower down the power hunger, especially when you are in Europe countries, where the hydro bill or electrical bill is pretty high in consumption. So all these bits and pieces, right, will save your day. As for the sound test, as some of you have mentioned wanting to listen to it, now take for example, this is in fact my LCD, or should I say the Galahad II LCD. So just to prove that this I'm controlling, see. Alright, back to this. Now on the pump right now is at default 2250 RPM, and this is the microphone, which is away from my liquid AIO. Now I draw nearer. Now I'll set to max speed, which will run at 3600 or so. Alright, right now is max speed, and my microphone is away from the AIO about 1 feet. And to bring near to the pump, this is the Galahad II Trinity, be it the SL version or the normal version. And this is how I control it, just to show you. Right now it's actually rainbow. I can set it to Morpheus, or maybe static color. Alright, just gonna leave it this way. Now as for the prompt profile right now, by default it's actually 2800, which I'm going to set it right here, so you can see the RPM itself, right, it will be at 2800, and my microphone is over here away from the liquid AIO, and this is how it sounds like when it's away 1 feet. And now near to the pump, I will set this to max right now. Once this turns to 3600 RPM, or was it 32? I can't remember. I'll just wait. Yeah, 3200 RPM. So at this max speed, right, though it's not 3200, but it's almost near. At this max speed, this is how it sounds like when I'm away. The microphone is away from the pump. And if I have to move it near, this is the performance of the Galahad. And just to show you that I'm controlling it, see, it reacts when I set to breathing. I'll set it back, probably I'll set it rainbow. Now the pump right now is running at silent, or should I say quiet mode, which you can see over here. Okay, this has a better picture. Now the microphone is away from the pump about 1 feet, and this is how it sounds like. And I'll move this towards the pump. Now I'm going to set the pump to run at full speed. Okay, 4200 RPM. I'll apply. This will take some time to climb. So once it reaches 42,000 RPM, right? I mean 4200 RPM, right? Then I'll do a reading. Okay, right now it's at 41, around there. So my microphone again is away 1 feet from the pump. And this is when I draw near the microphone to the pump. Just a gentle reminder to warn you that make sure you know where you connect your pump connector on your motherboard, as some of the fan headers, right, they are rated 1 ampere. That will be not enough to provide the amperage to your pump. Make sure it's either you connect to the AIO pump header, or in some motherboard like the S-Rock that I'm having, some of these fans the fan headers, right, are meant for water pump. You can switch, which I'm going to show you here. I know that for this board itself, right, in fact in most S-Rock board, for the CPU fan 2 onwards till CPU chassis fan 4, all this you can use water pump. Let me just show you. Now currently my pump is connected to chassis fan 3, which I know is 2 ampere. Let me just show you. Okay, right here you see all this are listed as CPU fan 2, chassis 1, chassis 2, chassis 3, and chassis 4. So this board, right, allow me to set the water pump. Okay, it's just an indication, but I know that all this, right, like CPU fan 2, CPU fan, chassis fan 1, chassis fan 2, all this I can set to water pump, and I know that all this are of 2 ampere. And for chassis fan 5, right, I can't switch. Same goes to the CPU fan 1. See? So when I list up, right, earlier on these are listed with all the CPU fan 2, chassis 1, 2, 3, and 4, but right now it's switched to water pump. But it doesn't mean that when you switch this, right, the amperage is not going to be 2 ampere. In fact, all these are rated 2 ampere. It's just for simplicity's sake. It gives you the title over here, or the legend. So take note. And for those of you not using S-Rock, right, make sure you read your motherboard or the website instructions that is rated 2 ampere and above before you connect your pump connector to your motherboard. If not, as mentioned, if you were to plug this to a 1 ampere connector, right, or header, right, it's not supplying enough power to your pump. Your pump will run, but it will struggle. So for a long time or period, right, your pump will get damaged, or it will start making noise. Alright, hope you guys have actually enjoyed what I've shared with you. I shared with you my experience with all the results and my thoughts about all the Galahad II family. I'd like to especially thank to Lian to have provided all the Galahad II for me to fiddle with and to share with my viewers, and also to Block Soda to have done all the hard work as in packing and to deliver it to me. With this said, for those of you who are actually new to my channel, welcome to my channel. If you like my content, do remember to subscribe and to click on the notification bell button. Till then, take care, goodbye, see ya.